Good day everyone, welcome back to Entitled Parents subreddit. Today we're going to listen to stories about how entitled parents make their children's life a living hell. With no further ado, let's get orgasm with rKush. Our first story of today's video was posted by Ari Merkwood, ruining your daughter make-a-wish. This happened a long time ago. I was helping a girl who had terminal cancer with her final preparations and wishes. She had requested to go on a cruise with her family and the make-a-wish program was happy to help her. She was really sweet and we soon formed a relationship. The day she was about to formally request her wishes, she looked really sad and didn't want to talk to anyone. I visited her and asked what's wrong, but she wouldn't tell me. It broke my heart to see her tearing up. Thankfully, after some time, she told me that she didn't want a cruise. She hated it. She wanted to meet her dream celebrity like she has seen other kids do. I told her no problem. I will speak to someone so we can find the celebrity she wanted, but she said not to because her mother had screamed at her when she first said she wanted to meet the celebrity. Her mother told her to forget about her final wish and ask for a cruise for all the family because that is something the entire family can go, and it is something the mother wanted since she was a child. I was speechless and furious. Even now I cannot understand why would a mother get in the way of her daughter's final wish. It took me a while, but I calmed her down and told her that it was her wish, not her mother's, and that I wanted her to be truly happy. She told me she always did what her mother asked and the idea of doing something she wanted was foreign to her, but she smiled. The biggest smile I had seen on her, and hugged me and said she would speak to her mother and get the celebrity she wanted. Sadly, I had to leave for the day, but I was happy I was able to convince her. Unfortunately, the talk with the mom did not go well, and she ended up requesting the cruise. The last time we spoke, she told me she tried but did not want to make her family sad, but that she wished so hard to have met this celebrity instead. I told her she will meet him someday and that she was an angel and not to worry, that the cruise will be amazing and she will be treated like a princess. We hugged, say goodbye. She said she was really happy to have met me, that I visited her when no one else would. Her mother had 2 other children and never went to visit her, and that she always looked forward to my visits because I did not talk about her cancer but made her laugh. It was a very hard day. The point of the story is, if you're a parent reading this, please listen to your child. Do not take away from them their final wish. Make sure they are happy because every second is precious. Jesus Christ, how can someone be this heartless to their own child? This would probably be the last thing she does, and the mother's not letting her have a say in it. Now to the next story, posted by Stands in Fires. My parents attempt to break up my relationship several times, culminating in the Thanksgiving from hell. Okay, this is a long one, but I hope it is worth the read. My wife is a long-time lurker, and I have recently started reading these and listening to the stories, so I was inspired to post. My parents have long been a pain in my butt, but for now, I'm going to mainly focus on my Thanksgiving from hell and the incidents leading to it. A few years ago, I met my future wife on an online dating app. We hit it off fairly quickly and the relationship progressed fast. I was in my late 20s. She turned 30 soon after we met. We both had a good idea of what we were looking for in a partner and had no interest in games. I met her parents within a few months, though I was much more reluctant to introduce her to mine for reasons that would become apparent. The problems began almost as soon as I told my folks I was dating someone. This was about 6 months into my relationship, as I was reluctant to inform my parents because they had tried to call the cops on my last long-term girlfriend. Might share that story later. Myself, my brother, and my parents were having dinner at a local Mexican restaurant and making small talk. They started asking me questions about my girlfriend, mostly the usual innocent questions, but at some point, I let slip that she was Jewish. Boy, was that a mistake. My parents are hyper-conservative Christians. For years, they had been trying to get me to date a girl from our church, a good friend of mine, but we were never really a match to be a couple, and always expected I would marry someone who was at least Christian. I am Christian by belief to this day, but I rarely have interactions with the church due to some incidents with the priest. Not that kind of incident, but yet another good story for later. My dad, without missing a beat, told me I should break up with her. He told me that I was going to marry a Christian girl and that was that. I was pissed and I don't remember the full extent of the rest of that conversation, but I told him that I was not breaking up with her and the rest of the dinner was tense. The next couple of months went about as smooth as you might imagine, but I thought I was slowly wearing them down. At some point, they invited my girlfriend and me over for dinner and I thought there was finally some progress being made. No, they got my brother to distract me in another room of the house while they sat down with my girlfriend and explained why they did not think she was good for me. They straight up told my girlfriend that she needed to break up with me because I was going to marry a good Christian girl. They even offered to pay her if she ended up leaving me. My girlfriend politely told them off and we left. Fast forward to November. My family is really big on the holidays, as I know many are, and we had a very large extended family family gatherings for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think in my entire life we had only missed one of these events. I wanted to go and take my girlfriend to meet the rest of the family. My parents may have had their heads up their butt, but the rest of the family has always seemed great to me. The event would be at my grandmother's house this year, my mom's mother, with a small gathering from my dad's side the day before Thanksgiving. I talked to my grandmother, who was fine with me bringing my girlfriend up so long as she slept in a separate room. No problem. No way I'm going to have sex with my girlfriend in my grandmother's house anyway. I decided to ask my mother as well. Not that I needed her permission, but I'm an optimist and I hoped that she would be on board, and maybe seeing my girlfriend having positive interactions with the family would help the situation. My mother was resistant at first, mainly because she was upset that we were getting an apartment together and did not want to encourage the relationship further, but eventually agreed. I should also note, I set some very clear boundaries with my mother about the conversation for this trip, which she brushed off as unnecessary, but I had my guard up nonetheless. We head out to my grandmother's city, and frankly, the first day is nothing but pleasant. My girlfriend gets to meet both of my grandmothers, some of my cousins, and another extended family. We are having a fairly good time, and I think things are going to go well until my girlfriend and I decided to go to a movie. We're going to go see Arrival in theaters. My brother, who is 5 years older than me, wants to tag along. He rode up with my parents. My girlfriend and I came up in my car, so my brother has to ride with us to the movie. The three of us sit together and my girlfriend and I snuggle through most of it. It was a fantastic movie and the ending made me cry. My girlfriend held me as the credits rolled, but I think all the cuddles had not sat well with my brother, who was single. He got up and I will never forget what he said, or the malicious tone in which he said it. "Too bad mom and dad would never let you marry her because she's Jew." My brother jogged out the theater before either my girlfriend or I could muster up a response. We sat there, a bit dumbfounded for a few minutes. Eventually, the house lights went up in the theater and we tried to formulate a plan. I have no idea where my brother is at this point, but he can't go too far considering we drove him. I decided to call my folks, considering I have no clue where he is and don't want to talk to him at this point. To my surprise, my mother signs with me and tells me it is alright if we just leave him. He can get an Uber back. We half consider it, but we find him on the way out, and my girlfriend, used to dealing with a-holes and children in her job, completely counts him with words. He silently rides back with us. We drop him off and my girlfriend and I go have dinner by ourselves. We debate just leaving, but decide my parents themselves have not crossed any of the boundaries we set, so we will stay for now. It would not take them long though. That same evening, I was getting ready to watch some Netflix in bed with my girlfriend. Nothing untoward was going to happen. She just likes falling asleep to the Great British Baking Show. As I walk past the living room, my mother calls me in and complains that I'm not spending enough time with my family. I'm a bit angry at this common manipulation tactic from my mother, but go chat for my grandmother's sake. My mom tries to tell me that my grandmother is upset with me that my girlfriend and I are planning on moving in together before we are married. I decide that my grandmother does not need my mother to be a mouthpiece for her, so I sit on the couch in between the two of them and face my grandmother. My grandmother and I chat. She's a bit worried about me moving in with a woman while unwed, but we calmly discuss the situation. She does not back down on her objection, but eventually concedes that it is my life. She likes my girlfriend and she's happy for us regardless. This entire time, my mother has been constantly trying to butt in on the conversation, but I'm physically putting myself between her and my grandmother, which is just pissing my mother off. Eventually, my father sees what's going on and also butts in. He cannot contain himself anymore and just goes off about everything he sees wrong with my relationship. I cannot remember his exact rhymes. I likely tuned them out, but I did call him a coward for talking crap behind my girlfriend's back. She was in her room, still waiting on me. This pisses him off, and he stormed out to fetch my girlfriend. He came back with my girlfriend in tow and proceeded to tear into her in front of me, my mom, and my grandmother, who was mortified that this was happening in her house. "My son will be Christian, his wife will be Christian, his children will be baptized in our church." He was nearly screaming at her. He also basically accused her of trying to steal my inheritance by getting knocked up by me, and added some very inappropriate comments about how he knew my girlfriend was getting older and her biological clock was ticking down. Through the whole tirade, my wife stood there quietly. As I said, she's used to dealing with a-holes and she's tough as nails. Letting him finish up and run out of energy, my girlfriend turned to my grandmother and thanked her for her hospitality, before turning back to my father and asking, "Why did you even invite us here if you were going to act like this?" My dad yelled again, "We did not invite you here. We never would have invited you here." At this point, I gleefully pulled out my phone and showed him the conversation I had had with my mother, where she agreed for my girlfriend to be here. My dad could not find words but just glared at his wife. At this point, I told them that my girlfriend and I were leaving. It was near 11 p.m, but we packed up my car and left for our hometown. My dad got in one more word before we left, saying, "You two better have broken up by the time you get home. Have a long hard thought about your future." To which I just laughed as we got in the car. My girlfriend and I drove home on pure adrenaline. We alternated between anger, humiliation, and frustration at the absurdity of the whole thing. This story does have something of a happy ending though. In the days that followed, we got a lot of calls and messages of support from my relatives, who I had not told about the incident. Turns out, my brother had made some vague social media post about how sad he was for me and asking everyone to pray for my brother. Many of my relatives took this to mean I had been hurt and they are calling my mother and father. When my parents were forced to explain the situation, all of my relatives sided with my girlfriend and me. In the months that followed, this incident caused my grandmother to think back on how she had acted with her daughters. Turns out that my mother had been the only marriage out of 3 daughters my grandmother had approved of. This incident made my grandmother realize that she had acted poorly with her other daughters, and she came to them to finally mend those old wounds. I had no idea, as it always seemed like my grandmother and her daughters had a great relationship, but these were old wounds that had just scabbed rather than healed. Overall, my family got closer because of this. In addition, my father has had a dramatic change over the intervening years, where once it seemed like we were not going to invite my parents to our wedding, my dad ended up being the happiest person there when my girlfriend, now wife, and I tied the knot. This has been helped by the fact that he discovered some underlying mental health issues after that Thanksgiving, and the meds he's using are truly helping him. He has started acting like the father I loved when I was a kid. My mother is still a problem, and boy do I have more stories, but she's mostly behaving because she knows my wife and I can and will block her from seeing her future grandchildren. Wow, I'm shocked that after all of that, his mom is the problem one. He handled her and his dad incredibly well. It's never come to that with my own parents, but I like to think I could handle it as well as he did here. And that brings me to the end of our video today. Hope you reached your orgasm with rKush. Good day everyone.